back on Ash Wednesday that consisted of 3 parts. The first was a fast, so we're fasting lunch and breakfast on Fridays. The second part is to commit to studying a gospel. We chose the Gospel of John. And then the third part is a commitment to corporate worship, so to go to church, essentially. So during the Lent season, the 40 days leading up to Easter, we ask everybody to commit to that. So being that part of our challenge is to commit to corporate worship, we are using this midweek devotional to kind of set the table for what's going to happen on Sunday. So I've been giving you a little bit of a sneak peek of the sermon so that you can get your head and your heart moving in the direction of hopefully what God will use to speak to us. And my sermon series is on who is Jesus. We've been in this sermon series for a little while now, and we're in the third part of it. We started off with who was he in a historical sense, so his humanity, his divinity, kind of his overarching mission. Then we moved into the Sermon on the Mount to say, what did Jesus say? And now we are in, how did Jesus live? What did his life look like? And that part of the series began with a look at Jesus' interaction with Nicodemus in John 3. Well, this week we're shifting to a second interaction with the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman at the well, to be specific. And Jesus' interaction with these people and the way that John tells these stories really reveals a lot to us about the work and the mission that Jesus had while he was here on earth. And the first thing to note is John is a master of utilizing metaphor within the church that's going to be very familiar to his listeners. And one of those is the woman at the well. This is a scenario we've seen over and over and over in Genesis 24. Yeah, it goes all the way back to Genesis. Genesis 24, we see where Isaac's servants go and find Rebekah. They find her at a well, and he gets a drink. And then in Genesis 29, Jacob meets Rachel at a well. And then last but not least, in Exodus 2, Moses meets his wife at a well. We see it over and over and over. And what John is doing is he's doing something very, very specific. He's trying to pull some history and some imagery together to tell a bigger story. So the first thing we're going to look at is Nicodemus came to Jesus at night. He was a Pharisee. Remember we talked about that last week. He was a Pharisee and came to Jesus at night. Teacher of the law came in darkness, so he couldn't see the light, but Jesus is the light. Well, now all of a sudden we are at high noon. The Samaritan woman is going to the well at high noon. And a lot of people have said a lot of stuff about her character because she's there at high noon. And maybe she didn't have great character. I don't know. But I don't know that that's what John was specifically trying to say with notating high noon. I really believe, and the story would confirm, I believe, that Jesus, being that it was high noon, was in full revelation to her. As a matter of fact, at the end of the story, she calls him the Messiah. But who are the Samaritans? Why are these people, again, why don't Jews and Samaritans talk? We had the Pharisees who were kind of the religious leaders. Well, the Samaritans are the opposite. Samaritans are descendants of the Northern Kingdom. And the Northern Kingdom was looked at as kind of dirty, almost Gentile, not quite, because when the Assyrians took over, they actually intermarried with some of the foreigners. So the South Kingdom was a little suspicious of them. So they had become almost outcasts. Even though they were technically a part of the people of God, they weren't really a part. And here we have a woman who is an outcast of an outcast society who meets Jesus, and he is revealed to her as the Messiah. What a beautiful sentiment. What a beautiful story. This is just a taste of what we're going to talk about today. On Sunday. Looking forward to seeing you then. Grace and peace, and I'll see you on Sunday.